Hello, and welcome to another episode of BM by BM. I'm Bailey, and that's Maxie. Sorry.
Bailey over there. Welcome to
Welcome.
this episode in which we will be discussing Escape from New York,
Yes,
Kurt Russell.
yes.
So, in this movie, let's see. The United States, what happened? The crime rate exploded?
Okay, so in my research last night, I found out so the movie was made in 1981, but someone picked up the baton and wrote a book to fill in the plot holes of Escape from New York.
Okay, go ahead.
So, it explains in the book a lot more, and I've just read a summary of the book. I have not read the book, which
It said I remember now. At the beginning of the movie, it says the crime rate increased 400%.
400% in New York. So they just built a wall and kept them in there.
All of Manhattan is a prison with 30-foot high walls on the other side of the river.
Yes.
And once you go in, you can never come out. So at the start of the film, Kurt Russell, ex-Special Forces, twice. Wait, did they say 2 Purple Hearts?
I don't remember how many Purple Hearts.
Yeah, it was 2, but don't you get that for being wounded? Maybe that's what happened to his eye.
Yes.
So he has robbed the Federal Reserve or something.
Yes.
So he has been sentenced to this maximum security. And right when they're processing him, a small jet with the President of the United States is commandeered and crashed into Manhattan, into New York, and the President is captured, and they give Snake, they call him Snake. Wait, what was his last name?
Plissken.
Yeah. Plissken, yeah. They give him a deal. They will expunge his record if he goes in and rescues the president. And hijinks ensue.
Yes. So one of the things I wanted to point out, the book builds the backstory for Snake as well as what is going on with the world today. So in the movie, they talk about how there's this meeting where the president's trying to get to with China and Russia. In the book, what happened was there was an outbreak of World War III. The countries involved agree not to deploy nukes, opting for nerve gas instead. And the prolonged conflict renders most of America poisonous, while the surviving citizens slowly go insane due to the lingering effects of the gas. So because of this poisonous gas, that's why New York becomes its own entity, because New York was one of the cities that was targeted first for an attack. Yes. So there you go.
Okay. So we should also say not that we should, but I'm going that Snake is injected with a couple of tiny capsules.
Yes.
That will immediately begin dissolving, and within 22 hours after they finish dissolving, will explode and kill him. Like just little tiny explosions to rip open his arteries. So, motivation to keep it moving and fulfill the mission. So there are several different groups of kind of societies that have formed inside. There are automobiles inside. Some of them run on steam. There's a man they call Brain, who can make gasoline in there. There's the Duke of New York, the boss of the whole island, and then there are what do they call him? Do they call them the crazies?
They do.
Live underground. So there's this whole. So they don't delve very deeply into any kind of backstories or an exploration of like what is life like. It's mostly superficial, like life. These people are savages. They're all savages, and there's just a couple of touches of kind of civilization, and they're just very surface level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a action filled adventure for good old Snake.
Yeah.
All right. Anything more on plot before we get to the commentary?
So the beginning of the movie is when Air Force One crashes, and this woman has taken over the plane, and she talks about, like, she uses the terms racist and imperialist agenda of the United States. So it just, I don't know. And also seeing the way that the prison security was dressed, it reminded me of cops in mob gear. So I think I could see a lot of similarities between police violence and riots that have been happening recently in this film that was made in 1981, but based I think it's the year 1997 in the film. So it was just interesting that people predicted that the president would be racist. I guess, people will always be upset with decisions that you make, but that was very interesting.
Yeah. So, connection I can make, which just occurred to me during the intro here, is so this film being made in 1981, in some ways reinforces the narrative that was emerging right then. This law and order narrative.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that there are a whole bunch of scary bad guys out there, and what we need to do is find, we need to protect ourselves from them. Now, the sympathetic character, the protagonist of the film, doesn't buy that, but still there's this sort of setting, and this really the plot line of the movie is this whole, if you're in prison, you're going to stay there, and the scary lawbreaker type.
Mm-hmm. Although I also noticed when they go through processing before actually being delivered to the island or the penitentiary, they do have the option to be killed and cremated on site. So there's that as well. Oh, goodness. We are having technical difficulties. So in Escape from New York, Snake Plissken is determined to find the president of the United States because his life is in danger. The president's life is in danger, and he has a briefcase that contains some materials. The president has a briefcase that contains materials, so he needs to retrieve that as well. So that's, besides Snake not dying himself, he also needs to get the president out because there's important information that needs to be relayed to this meeting between China, Russia, and the United States. So there you go.
Excellent. Connections. So I don't know. So I will say, maybe more like commentary. I found Plinsky to be a fairly unsatisfactory protagonist, in that
Pliskin,
I don't know, the guy.
Yes.
So he's dissatisfied with the way the society's going, right? He was a soldier. He was honored for his service.
Mm-hmm.
Now for whatever reason, he's broken the law. And based on some of the dialogue in the movie, this is not the first time he's been, cutting up. He's caught. He's sentenced. He's in a pickle. He takes a deal. He fulfills his end of the bargain. He gets his freedom. He sticks it to the man, and he walks away. I don't see the sort of sympathetic character.
True.
In the movie, I was kind of waiting for, the prisoners are going to reveal to him that he was wrong and he's been lied to, and actually they're the ones who have been wronged, and he's going to join their fight, and he's going to become a just, that whole narrative. I'm like, or he will do one last good thing, and I don't know, rescue the girl or something. But in the end, it's just like, yeah, I got the thing I wanted, and deuces, everyone.
True. Very true.
Unsatisfactory so he was the protagonist, but I would say I would certainly not consider him heroic at all.
Yes, he is definitely not your traditional protagonist. Like, he's not like Neo or V. He doesn't, like, I guess the only redeeming quality about him is he's able to fight his way out of situations and able to keep himself alive.
Yes.
Even with what?
Arrows in his leg, or an arrow.
I know. Man, it was incredible.
He did not make it out of that situation, so I guess it's an arrow. Yeah.
But in some of the things that I was reading in preparation for this episode, people pointed out there's a very brief scene when Snake is in a bad part of town and he sees like this girl getting roughed up by 3 different guys, and he doesn't intervene. He just keeps walking, but then he like threatens another guy with his gun and beats up 2 other guys because they approach him. So I think
take his boot. Nice boot.
Yes. I think he has this mentality of like, if you don't bother me, I don't bother you. But if you bother me, I'm going to bother you back. I think he has been so jaded and weathered a lot through his service to the country that he really doesn't have anything to believe in except for himself. And I mean, you don't really hear a lot about his story. You do hear about this guy that was his partner, Fresno Bob, and then he ended up getting killed by the police. Brain screwed him over. Yeah. So it's just, and again, in the book that gives more backstory, it talks about how, like, because of this poisonous gas, people experience pain or something because it's a nerve gas, so they're not immune to it. But in the book, it even says that the guy who gives him the deal, Hawk, gives him like some crystal meth to have for pain relief while he goes into the jail. But then, of course, he drops it and loses it. So that's why he's in a bad mood, because he doesn't have any pain relief.
Yeah. Very 80s. That's very 80s.
Very 80s.
Is there a tiger or a fur coat? I was surprised we mentioned those details.
Yes. Well, and my favorite part of the film is the first time that you see the Duke, because his car is so awesome.
Yeah.
And they're hanging chandeliers on the car. So awesome. That's my favorite part.
Yes, that's good. That's good stuff.
Yes.
I will have to say, every time we saw the Duke, I was distracted thinking of his character in Robin Hood Men in Tights. So it was a little distracting for me, but it was good. It was well played. Yeah. So I think a lot of what we discuss here is pretty rich in its, its commentary, drawing connections. Kind of hard for me to do this with this one on its own. Kudos to you for bringing in the book to try to kind of redeem it a little bit. I'm not saying this was a bad film. I'm just saying, if you're looking for deep thoughts,
true,
not the place for this. I will say I will say the one thing, again, tying back into what I said, is if the crime rates have risen so dramatically that your only solution is to throw people into basically a community for life, and that community is so bad that there is a frequent enough request that you have a policy allowing people to choose a execution instead, maybe at that point you should be thinking about what is going on with the society at large that that is perpetuating such high crime rates, even when people understand that you may be thrown into a Manhattan-sized prison for the rest of your life. So that kind of it's not our fault-ness, I think, tracks for me.
I agree. It doesn't have like a redeeming, beautiful bow on it end of the movie storyline. Some of the characters' deaths are sudden, and like you've grown attached to this character throughout the film, and then they die, or they die in a dumb way.
Yes.
So there's that. In the book, it does mention how while they're processed, before they're put on the island, they go through a sterilization process so that there will not be more little prisoners in the future. And then I also find it interesting that they deliver food via helicopter, like once a month or something. And so the way that they feed these people, like they're in their own area, but the government is still feeding them somehow. I don't know. It's interesting.
Prison, you got to feed the prisoners.
I know, but I just would figure I'm sure that they brought Napoleon food in exile, but I just don't think of, the island of Elba like this movie.
Sheeps. Wow. I should move on from this line of... I take your point. It's a good point. It's barbaric. And I think this is what we're saying is the barbarism here, I think, is on the society. You can't pin it. The people who are in there are products of the society.
Yes.
And, even our current events now, like these really significant outbreaks in prison and things like that. And that's not concern for us because like they're over there and that's not our problem. So anyway, I obviously we can draw whatever else we want, but mostly what I've got is good job 80s. I'm not going to hit you too hard for working with what you had, both your technological, cinematographic, is that a word? The tools you had available to you, the talent you had available to you. So given that, I don't regret watching it, but I also am very happy that I didn't have to pay anything to watch it.
This was my pick. My dad loved this movie. He still does. He really likes Big Trouble in Little China, which is another John Carpenter and Kurt Russell film as well. So that's very interesting. I did also research Air Force One. So in this film, the president gets in a pod, and the pod is
protects
words.
Him.
Yes.
When the plane crashes, it make sure he survives.
So apparently, someone asked Donald Trump this in an interview because this is not the first time or the only cinematic representation of a pod in Air Force One. But Trump said that there is no pod. Also, the current colors for Air Force One are more of like a baby blue, as designed by JFK. And Trump wants to change the colors to bring it a little bit more modernity. But the colors that he wants are a dark blue, which is actually what the plane looks like if you look at the plane after it's crashed in New York. So I thought that was really funny.
Very nice. Maybe
Yes.
he's 81. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, was in New York. Oh, this is getting good. See what happens.
Mm.
All right. Good one. What's up?
Alrighty. Okay, so we do have 12 Monkeys coming up.
Monkeys.
Now, is that the Bruce Willis movie or the new series that came out? Did you know that there's a new series?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
No,
Bruce Willis.
Yes.
So next week,
Wait, wackos everywhere playing at madness. Go see.
On Tuesday we have 12 Monkeys.
Yes.
And then on Friday, we will discuss the television series Devs.
Ooh. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Is that our last one?
For now.
Okay. So I propose that we do this. I think we need to give our fan an ultimatum. Dear fan, we're going to share, both of us, on social media 4 possible categories to discuss after these 2 are over.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get at least 3 votes total, then we will take that as a sign that we should, see about how frequently we do these shows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not 3 votes for the winning, just 3 people need to vote in this poll. Okay.
Okay. Not including us.
Right. Don't pretend to be the fan. Mm-hmm. So I know there's one fan out there. So fan, you need to get at least 2 other people to vote. And then and we need you to do that by, let's say, Thursday next week. So we have time to announce the new series on Friday of next week.
That would make sense.
Believe in you. And we'll keep this thing rocking.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. I don't know about in Louisiana, but in Alabama, our cases continue to climb. So
ours are getting worse too.
School's about to start. You don't know if you heard, Alabama just ditched their USC game, their opener. So
I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want your school or your football, I'm not in charge of the football. I'm not in charge of the school either. But please be careful. Yes. Consider doing what the medical experts say.
Right.
For us.
Right. Be like Snake Plissken, except instead of an eye patch, put it over your nose and mouth.
Mouth patch.
Yes. It's the same.
Get a mask that looks like a giant eye patch? That would be awesome. I'll look into it. We'll let you guys. All right, Joe.
Bye.
Catch you next week.